gentlemen, welcome back. The 35th TWNIC IP Open Policy Meeting is held as a parallel meeting with ICANN APAC. We will now proceed to the IP Open Policy Meeting for the Cybersecurity Special Interest Group. Please welcome the moderator for the session, Mr. David Huberman, Technical Engagement Senior Specialist at ICANN, to introduce the panelists for us. Mr. Huberman, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us today. My name is David Huberman, and I work at ICANN in the Office of the Chief Technology Officer. Welcome to everyone. ICANN and TWNIC are very honored to host today's Special Interest Group on Cybersecurity. Our panelists have prepared some wonderful materials covering some very diverse topics, such as advanced DDoS defenses, understanding some of the newest threat landscapes in the Internet of Things ecosystem, a presentation on new and better ways to thwart attacks, and some analysis of some recent and interesting honeypot activity. So I would like to introduce our all-star panelists that are with us today. Joining us on the panel is Mr. Hikohiro Lin, General Manager of the Product Security Global Strategy Office of Panasonic. Welcome. We welcome Dr. Kunio Miyamoto, the Security Master of NTT Data CERT in the Security Engineering Department of the NTT Data Corporation. Welcome. And we welcome our friend Adli Wahid. Adli is a Senior Internet Security Specialist at APNIC. Welcome, my friend. We will begin today with a presentation from our friend, Mr. Hikohiro Lin. Please, Mr. Lin, when you are ready. Yes, we can hear you great. Thank you.
All right, let me start. Thank you for having me here. I'm very great honored to be talking ICANN Engagement Forum. My name is Hikohiro Lin from Panasonic. And let me introduce myself a little bit quick. I'm from the Panasonic Corporation headquarters from Japan. I'm in charge of product security issue. And I'm the founder and the rep of the Panasonic PCERT. And also I'm the founder for the Cybersecurity Lab. And I'm also the review board for HitCon and Hack in the Box. And you can see the right-hand side, the Tengu. I sometimes do the Tengu stuff. And nice to see you guys. So let me introduce some Panasonic overview. Our company is very Japanese traditional manufacturer. Employees like 270,000 people and more than 100 years old now. And we have 4 pillars of the business. People always know that we are making the consumer electronics like TVs and washing machine, air condition, that kind of stuff. Not only that, we are also making the housing stuff. And also we are the tier 1 for OEM, the car industry. We provide car system to Toyota, Honda, or Benz, BMW, Ford, that kind of OEMs. And also we are doing the business B2B. For example, you can see the picture here. This is the airplane entertainment system. And you can watch the movie at in the airplane. And you can also do the internet access in the airplane. We doing this kind of service. We have 80% share. We also doing this kind of business as well. And actually, everything is connected. Actually, we have many service products going to be connected to the internet. Of course, if you are connected to the internet, there are many threats. For example, this is a NICTR data. There are many attacking increasing every year. And almost half of them are trying to target IoT devices. And now also IoT malware is going to be increasing regarding to the Kaspersky data. So we need to taking care of the malware of the IoT. So now let me introduce our cybersecurity in Panasonic. Actually, we have 3 cybersecurity issues, like, for example, IT security. It's very regular IT security, like internal Panasonic stuff. Also, the website, they're in charge. CSER is in charge of those IT security issue. And this is us, me. I'm in the product security center. We are in charge the product, which provide to the customers, not only product services. And also we have the factories. We have more than 300 factories global wide. And of course, we need to taking care of the factory security as well. And the expert is going to in charge those things. As you can see, everything is separated. And because we are report to the executive is quite different. For example, IT security, we need to report to the CSO. Product security, we need to report to the CTO and CQO. CQO is like Chief Quality Officer, right? And factory security, we need to report to the CMO, Chief Manufacturing Officer. So those 3 combined together, we call the cybersecurity. So actually, manufacturer has a lot of things to do for the security. And talking about the product security, we have 2 pillars to support the product security. One is the minimize the risk, and the other pillar is the incident response. So 2 pillars can support the product security, also the brand of the Panasonic. So this is very highest priority for manufacturer, the product security. And now, when you're making the products, we have this kind of product life cycle. First phase is the planning, and then you do the design, and also you do the implementation. And before shipping, you need to do the tests, many things, and on market. And this is the regular product life cycle. And each life cycle phase, we do many security activities. For example, when you do the planning, you need to do the threat analysis. And when you do the design, you need to do the security designing. And when you do the implementation, you need to do the secure coding. And before shipping, you need to test the product itself, whether they have the vulnerabilities or not. And before shipping, those green side, we call minimize the risk. So we do as much as we can to try everything about the product security, but this is not going to be 100% secure because maybe new attacks coming after that, or maybe 0 day, or maybe we use many open source. So maybe if something happened to the open source vulnerability, then maybe we need to be fixed. But at that time, maybe we don't know. So maybe 70%, 80% secure. And after that, we're going to do the shipping, and we're going to take care as the incident response. So this is the deal. So let me talk about the incident response. We have the Panasonic PCERT, meaning the Product Security Incident Response Team. And we've been doing this for 10 years now. We start 2010. And this is a structure. I'm here, Panasonic PCERT headquarters. And under that, we have many Panasonic groups. For example, AP means the appliance company, and life solution company here, an automotive company, an industrial system company. We have many companies, and they have the incident response team for the window. And we are here as a headquarters, and it's alternate, like government, cybersecurity, taking care of cybersecurity people, or cybersecurity vendors, and some academics and individual researchers like White Hacker. They report to us that we have the vulnerabilities. Then we're going to receive as a point of contact. And after that, we discuss, we analyze, and pass to our groups, divisions, companies. So like we are like coordination center, like we need to do the coordinate and pass to them to deal with whether this vulnerability need to be fixed, or if cannot fix, how we're going to deal with, whether we have other solutions to cover. And after that, we're gonna deliver new firmware to fix the vulnerabilities. And as you can see, when they report the vulnerability, they are very nice and very thankful. But the thing is, they are very nice, but what about the black hat, bad guys? They don't report to us. Not nice, they're not nice, so they don't report to us. They're using those vulnerability and trying to attack something else, so they're not gonna contact us. So we are very worried about that. So we also trying to do some new project. We call the PCERT upgrade, more function enhancement about the PCERT. And this project, we call Panasonic IoT Threat Intelligence. And we're using basic IoT device, for example, TV, washing machine, fridge, network camera, and some air condition, 9 devices, stable IoT devices we are selling. We use those products, making the physical honeypot to let them attack, whether what is going on, what happened after that. So we're collecting those attacking data, and we found many malwares and such things we're going to analyze and get back feedback to the development teams, how we're going to deal with those issues. So this is some output, 9 devices, 840 million attacks to the IoT devices, 9 IoT devices. And we collected 70,000 more malware. 30% of them are IoT malware. And 7,000 is unknown IoT malwares we found. And those attacks, malwares are from ARMS, CPU architecture from ARMS and MIPS mainly. And also the malware family is mainly GAFJIT and Mirai the most. And which country attacking from is top 5 is US, China, Netherlands, Russia, and Vietnam at this moment. Well, every year change, but this is the fact. And last year, I don't know why, but camera and TV are attacking most. This is very interesting. So let me introduce what is the physical honeypot. You can see here on the left up, we mapping using the software from the NICT. This is very cool software. We mapping 9 devices. You can see the circle turn fast, mean that attacking fast, attacking a lot. So you can see TV and the network camera and DVD players attacking most. And you can see the fridge turn very slow, which means that attack very slow, mean attack less. Maybe they don't have any open port to attack. That's why maybe less. And right-hand side here, you can see the attacking, where they from. Every day, different countries attacking to those 9 devices. Visually, you can see. And here, this is the real one, real physical area we put. And sometimes they're flashing LED. You can see here, it's flashing, mean that they're attacking in real time. So that you can see real-time physical attacking. This is very interesting, right? And now PCERT will have more challenging here. Like, as you know, IoT is going to be getting increasing every year. And not only those information leaking, maybe do harm the people, right? You can use the IoT, you can compromise and do bad things. Also, we are concerning about the IoT malwares. It's very going to be huge incident like Mirai. And also the threats is more advanced and complex every year. So how the manufacturer going to take down those issues? And also going to be impact the business. As you know, the government is going to strict the law regulation about the IoT security. But our IoT devices is going to use like long life cycle, like maybe 5 years we can use as a fridge or TV, but limited capacity. Maybe you can update it firmware maybe every year, but not going to be after 5 years later. That is an issue too. But still, if we use those Panasonic IoT threat intelligence, maybe we can solve those problems. And that's my talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really, really interesting. And the visualization of the real-time attacks was really, really cool. Thank you for sharing with us. If it's okay with you, I had a question for you. You founded the Peace Cert more than 10 years ago, and you've been running it, and I congratulate you. That is a wonderful achievement. You think about all the lessons you've learned running it, and today, when you think about staffing an incident response team like you run, in general, what do you think some of the top skills you look for when you think about the ideal employee to join your team? I mean, what kind of hard skills or maybe soft skills most stand out to you that indicate a high likelihood of success as a member of your incident response team?
That is very tough question, and it's a good question. Actually, our PISA member, they are all professional for every areas. Like they're good at hardware and also software and network and also language. Because when you do the incident response, sometimes from the global, right? Maybe English or somehow. So the language also important. And also communication skill. Because when we receive the vulnerabilities, we need to report to the development team, division, right? And we need to tell them very nicely that how we're gonna fix it, right? So very, very important communication skill to tell them how to lead, to make them fix. So actually very superheroes, everybody here. But I think we cannot say that everything you need to be perfect. Some of them be going to be good, then maybe going to be the good members of us. Am I answering a good question?
Oh yes, no, that's a wonderful answer. It's nice to hear some of your wisdom on the topic, having done it so long, and it's appreciated. Thank you. Okay, we have another great presentation next from Dr. Kunio Miyamoto. And Dr. Miyamoto, if you are ready, we would love to. Hello.
I'm ready.
Yes, please go ahead.
Now, okay. Now start my presentation. This is titled as Position Talk, Second ICANN Impact Clinic Engagement Forum. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Kunio Miyamoto, a member of LTT Data Sat. LTT Data Sat is the CSAT of LTT Data Group, corporate group-wide, corporate-wide CSAT. And my job, my role is to respond to various of incidents. By the way, in our companies, mal-host access, our computers access to mal-host is one of incidents. Then such incidents must be decreased. The URL filtering system is useful to decrease the malhost access. But this URL filtering systems is managed by other sections, like IT management sections. Then our own systems to prevent malhost access is needed for our missions, to complete our missions. And this is the main index of this presentation. Topics is five. The index includes 5 topics. One, decepting and security live next door to each other. And we think we decept a certain kind of responses for keep security. By the way, the word deception, normally we feel the word deception, but of course. But we use deception technology for preventing access to attackers and malhost and keep security. To keep security. The basic idea for deception is very simple. We deceive the attackers respond from attackers, and by using deception technologies, our in-house host and clients is protected from attackers. Next topic, attackers use deceptions. Defenders can use deceptions. What to do? Accessing to malhost is assumed as a beginning of attack, we think. One of easy way is the host deception that victims access to. And this is one of deception applying decepting technology. We call DQB, DNS Query Blocker. This is our original product to decept DNS response. This is other implementation to decept three-way handshake. And this is prevent connect TCP connection by using decepting three-way handshake. In fact, decepted SYNAC packet sending connection is jammed. We developed this DQB shutdown. We call DNS response deception and three-way handshake SYNAC deception. And this basic concept and implementation is similar to Great Firewall. And we thought DQB and shutdown are homemade Great Firewall. Preventing access to malhost is easy, but hard for operation. We thought keeping operation simple is the key to work your and our system healthy. And this is the workflow or operation for DQB shutdown. This is a web application operating DQB and shutdown. One way transition for web applications. This makes operations simple, more simple. Next topic, development for prevent to access malhost in our laboratory and run minimal systems as production. This is the POC system, proof of concept. These systems, DKB and shutdown development spent only 3 days. But this system, this system to production level, developed to production system development and deployment spend about 1 year. And we learned minimal system that through this systems development, minimal system is required for minimize our system operation maintenance cost. After deployment of DKB and shutdown runs for 5 years or more than 5 years, and now runs in our company and NTT data group infrastructure. And this is an overview of our intranet infrastructures. We use large amount of computers, 20,000 or 30,000 of computers. Most of the computers, Windows operating system runs. Windows runs most of the computers. And more of them runs Windows embedded. But unfortunately, these computers is not applied to MS-7010 patches. And we have deployed and been operating security solutions below firewall, quarantine, USB port control, URL filtering system, endpoint security, and GEM. And these are developed by security vendor. And for us, these products, most of these products are black boxes. But negative effects to our DKB and shutdown is required not to affect negatively to these black box components and our business continuity. And we must care our business continuity and negative effects to these black boxes. And then we took about 1 year for researching intranet infrastructure overview and details. And we must our systems, DKBs and shutdown systems test and explanation to other section like IT systems management section. And in conclusion, we learned researching target infrastructure like intranet infrastructure. It's required to develop product development and deployment for hours. To minimize system is required to minimize variable cost, like development and deployment and operation. Sweet. decepting is effective way to prevent access into attacker's malicious host. For home-based security system is like last 1 mile to complete your own security system. Of course, my own security systems. This is my prepared all materials. Appendix. Our system works on ransomware infection. This is one of our incidents facts. Infected many of hosts to WannaCry. Left graph is infected host number, about 500,000 access a day. Right pictures is logs, access logs by infected host to WannaCry. In short times, very many accesses on that. This is all amount. These are all kill switch occurred by kill switch access. WannaCry. This is my prepared all materials. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That was a really interesting presentation. I commend you. It's not easy to build homemade, to develop software in-house that can so effectively monitor and deceive traffic in such a way that it so nicely protects our networks. So that was very interesting, and thank you very much for sharing. Our next presentation is from Adli Wahid from APNIC. Let's see. Great. Adli, when you are ready, you can share your screen and begin your presentation.
Yeah, I think someone needs to disable their presentation first. And
there we go.
All good. Thanks, David. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to ICANN and TWNIC for inviting myself and also my other colleagues to this event. I am the last speaker of this session, and what I will do is present some of our observations and findings related to the community HoneyNet project that we run. Interestingly enough, though, I must say that going into this conference, I wasn't sure what others will be presenting about, but happy to see my colleagues, my friend Nin-san and Miyamoto-san spoke a bit about honeypots, deception technologies. So I think this will fit right into the conversation, and probably we can have some interesting discussions afterwards. My plan of action today is very straightforward. I'm going to share, I'm going to highlight one observation, what kind of observations or attack campaigns that we see from our HoneyNet project. Then I'm going to pivot into talking a little bit about detection and remediation. The previous presentation mentioned already about detection, so I'll focus a bit about remediation, especially on a large-scale basis, and looking at it from the governance perspective as well. And last but not least, some lessons learned through our interaction with folks that are running these honeypots. My contact is there. I would be very happy if people reach out to me and we connect in some way so that we can have some conversation after the presentation. So those are my links. I thought of putting a bee photo here because I think in a lot of honeypots presentation, people would think about honeys and bees. But this is actually a very cool bee. It's a neon cuckoo bee. Maybe some of you have never seen it before. So if you want more information about that, reach out to me as well. The Community HoneyNet project initially was started out here at APNIC for teaching. Maybe some of you are aware, not all security engineers are the same, right? Some are very capable, some are new, some do security, but in different areas of security. So someone who does security may not have seen a real attack before. I think that's what some of my experience in dealing with a lot of security engineers. They can secure and harden things, but when it comes to dealing with real attacks, a lot of them have actually never seen an attack. So we thought doing honeypots can be beneficial, especially in our training and engagements, so that people can at least see what a sample attack, an example of an attack looks like, right? So that you can defend better. Our HoneyNet also pushed data to another project that is running at APNIC called Dash. So if you're an APNIC member, you might be familiar with this. Essentially what it is that you can log into the portal and see if there's any traffic from your network hitting our honeypots. So that could be like a detection sort of thing. And the idea is that you can dig in deeper into those data sets. We share a lot with the security community, with the certs and C-certs, and do some collaboration. In this presentation, however, I'm just gonna focus on one kind of attacks. Our friend earlier mentioned about the IoT malware. This is kind of like that. And it's basically a bunch of honeypots that we run to emulate SSH and Telnet. And this emulation is quite interesting because Telnet and SSH is like a door to a house or to a system, right? And once you expose it on the internet, someone will come in and knock on that door and maybe try to enter. When I talk about SSH and Telnet honeypots to some friends, especially those who are in security for a long time, they will tell me, so what? What's the big deal? It's just SSH or Telnet. In fact, we thought that Telnet had died, but apparently not. They are making a comeback, and instead of using the secure method for connecting to a system, many of the IoTs and even maybe some computer systems still have Telnet enabled. But that's besides the point. The point is that once you have Telnet exposed on the internet, someone will try to enter, someone will try to come, which is interesting because then we can see what else they are up to. Our honeypots have no production value whatsoever. They're not as fancy as the physical honeypots that Panasonic has, but I think it's a start because those who are looking for access to systems would be actively looking for Telnet and SSH. So if they are being turned on and exposed, somebody will come for it. There's a lot of malware that spread using SSH and Telnet. So upon infection on a device, right, they will scan around to see if there are other SSH or Telnet ports. And the weaknesses that are being exploited here is a very simple one, right? Not some, remote code execution, buffer overflow, but rather weak authentication, right? These are people who never bother, or organizations who never bother to change the username and password or the default username and password, or in some instances, a compromised system may have keys that will allow people to connect to another system through SSH. So that's maybe slightly advanced, but it's very basic in how malware spreads through SSH and Telnet. And unfortunately, there's a lot of these activities on the internet. If you don't believe me, you can set one up and see it for yourself. But I just put here some graphs of activities in more or less last 24 hours. We have 50 or so plus honeypots running this in different locations around the region. And you can see more than 8,000 unique IP addresses trying to get in, into the honeypots. And I think this highlights that bit of a problem, which I will discuss later on. How do you manage, all these exposed devices? But Telnet and SSH itself, somebody trying to connect to you may not sound very exciting. What is more exciting is what happens after a successful login, right? Because that's when, if it's an attacker, maybe they will park or put a script or download a binary on the machine, or run some commands, or execute a series of commands to hide its presence on the host. So that's more on the analysis side of things. But for this presentation, I'd like to highlight two common attacks that may not be so obvious to a lot of people, especially if you don't pay attention to network-related activities and so on. Now, as much as I'm excited to talk about this, I'm also disheartened because this is not new at all. Some of us who've been working with the CERT community for a long time, we've seen this like forever, right? And it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger despite many discussions and seminars and conferences on this topic. So one that is kind of worrying is the DDoS agents stressors type of attack, where the sole goal is to basically recruit as many machines or devices. It doesn't matter what they are. It can be a camera, it can be a computer device, it could be, you know, they could be a virtual machine. As long as they can run a binary, a code on it that can connect the machine or the device to a mothership, to a command and control, it will just wait for further instruction, right? And in this case, we see that this is related to many of the stressors or DDoS services, DDoS for money or DDoS as a service that you can, if you just Google it, you can find many shady entities offering this service. And it is through all this infrastructure that they have developed, right, during peacetime, right now when they're not attacking, that will be used to launch an attack. Now, I like to highlight this in many of the conferences that I participate in, especially if there are lots of network operators. Many network operators or organizations only care about the final attack, right? The DDoS attack that is against you. In this case, they're not attacking you or the organization that they are part of, but basically they are being recruited for the next big attack, right? So although they're not targeting you directly, they are being used to target other organizations. And the thing about some of these activities is that it's money oriented. This is for cyber criminals activities. So there is this equation that you have to think about, you know, who is behind it, how are they sustaining their business? So that's basically some other interesting thing to think about. More recently though, we see a lot of coin mining activities. So the goal is to get into a host, right? And to start mining coins and generating money for the actors or agent. Again, some people may say that, oh, this doesn't hurt me, right? But still, mining happens on sometimes production systems. I've seen this happening on, you know, web host routers like MikroTiks and a bunch of other devices that, you know, you don't want these activities to be there in the first place. Of course, the end goal is to generate money for the attackers. But the point is, these two campaigns, they are very noisy, right? They are very obvious as well, because the scripts or the binaries or the droppers that they put or the artifacts that they put on the host, it's there for us to see and to analyze. And I've put some stuff here. I'm not sure if people can actually see it, but a copy of the slides have been sent. So you can download a copy if you want to see the config. What I have here on this side, on the right side, is a Perl script for this DDoS bot, right? Again, this is very old stuff that we keep on seeing today. Within this script, then you can get information about where the command and control is, what the channel name is that they use. So it's everything is available in plain sight, so to speak, right? So on this side, it's basically a script that they drop on the host to be executed. And when it is executed, it will download a binary, normally a Linux binary, that gets executed. And again, if you have an antivirus on that machine or a network antivirus that looks for malicious traffic, all of this will just ring a lot of alarms, right? But unfortunately, a lot of people are not seeing this, surprisingly. So this diagram down here is just VirusTotal output, showing that piece of binary that was loaded on the host, you know, is kind of known. Same goes with the miners. For the miners, what is also interesting is that once it has infected a machine, it will then try to, first of all, do a lot of activities on the host. So there's a lot of processors running, you know, CPU load is going to be very high. But at the same time, it'll be sending the results of the mining to a mining pool where they then collect their money, right? So the results are being sent to a location. So the point is, if you are observing network activities in the network, you will more likely, you know, be able to detect some of this. For those who are researching, you know, attackers or entities who are behind this, other information is also available in the config file, like the wallet address, and maybe some infrastructure related information that they use so that we can understand how big is this operation. Now, going back to this presentation, talking about detection and remediation. So honeypots is kind of valuable. And I think the previous two presenters have mentioned this as well for detection, because by right, that honeypot should not be getting any traffic or any activities. So getting things from it can be useful for organization to do detection. But because a lot of these activities are also in the public domain, like it's noise on the internet that everybody gets to see. Even if you don't have a honeypots, there are many other resources that you can subscribe to about activities coming from your network, right? So the security community talks about OSINT, open source intelligence. Maybe that's a fancy word for just feeds. So you can get feeds from Shadow Server, VirusTotal, Team Cymru, who may have some indicators of IP addresses or hashes or URLs coming from your network. So you can actually know that you are someone or an entity in your organization is up to something evil by getting this feed and then act upon it, right? Instead of waiting for somebody to tell you that something is bad happening on your network. The difficult part in having to deal with all this information, collecting all this data, is remediation. So, I mean, if I'm just a researcher, I'm just going to sit on this data and do some research and maybe come up with a paper or something like that. But we want to get this information out so that owners of the infected devices, because these are the ones who are actually hitting our honeypots, should know about it and maybe can fix it. Now, this is where the tricky bit comes into play. It is not always a straightforward thing. Like, we cannot reach the owners of the device. We always have to work maybe through a network operator or, a web hosting company or something like that. They then will have to talk to their customers. They don't have access to those customers' machine. And in some cases, customers do not know what to do, right? They're not technical or they're not getting the right advice. And in the first presentation, it was mentioned, sometimes the vendors do not provide the fixes, right? So, for example, in a lot of these cases, the username and password are the basics one, and they are hard-coded in the device. So even if the users change the password to a more difficult one, once the machine reboots, it gets back to the easy, admin password, and once again that device is exposed if Telnet and SSH is exposed as well. So sometimes patches are not available, and therefore this is where maybe the operators or the organization have to apply workarounds. We heard about workarounds in the last presentation. The other thing that is also important when it comes to remediation is the attack infrastructure, right? Because attackers seems to be attackers seems to be able to do things freely, right? They can move things around very easily, so they never get shut down, right? So we are like firefighting, fixing one device at a time, whereas the attackers are maintaining a huge infrastructure for running code. And sometimes we're not getting the assistance for takedowns, or sometimes people are also not familiar on what actually to do in some of these instances. So there's no straightforward answer for this one other than maybe more conversation, more collaboration, and so on and so forth. So quick, my top 3 lessons learned from some of these experiences. One is on visibility. If you are not monitoring, or if you're not monitoring the right things, then everything can go in and out of your network without you realizing it, right? Or maybe when you realize it, it's already probably too late. I think lack of awareness is a thing as well, right? And this could be lack of exposure, or maybe just a different perspective on what security is, right? Some people are waiting for that big APT, nation state attack, or DDoS attack, whereas some of the small things that contributes with that are being ignored. And I get a lot of this, it doesn't affect us, right? Our network is still okay kind of syndrome, not realizing that, not taking action put people at risk, right? Including, owners of the device, home networks, and so on and so forth. And I also see that sometimes security specialization means different things to different people. Some people care more about maybe when it comes to security, penetration testing. Some people care more about routing security. Others want DNSSEC. And so there is also maybe a fragment within the security community. Sometimes they're not talking to one another, or people just think their area is more important than the other person's area of interest. And last but not least, I think this is real lack of resources. There was an incident that I dealt with where there was only one host from this one network operator, which took about 1.5 years for them to actually take action. And it wasn't because they didn't want to take action. It was because, one, the management thinks that it was not important for the network engineer to take action. And number two, they didn't want to send someone to go and help fix the problem, right? Because we have no budget, we have no resources. So lack of resources can be very dangerous as well in dealing with security issues. So with that, I would like to conclude by saying that I'm just highlighting 2 issues. There's more, but maybe we can have this in a different session or different domain. If you would like to collaborate and know more about the APNet Handout project, feel free to reach out to myself. So thank you for the opportunity, and I give it back to you, David.
Oh, thank you very much, Adli. Just a quick comment. We do have one more presentation to go, but Adli, you talked a lot about your 3 takeaways, and one of them was about a lack of awareness. And that really harkens back to what Mr. Hikohiro Lin talked about when he talked about building and staffing a successful incident response team. And it's about communication, right? It's not just about conveying the things that you know as a security researcher, as a member of a security research team, as an incident response team, as a scientist, as an engineer. It's also about listening. It's about listening to what someone's trying to tell you about threats that they're seeing on their network that might be coming from yours, or threats to your network that you may not be aware of and you may not be specialized in. But it's really important for you to listen and understand. And for me, listening to your talk and really thinking about it, it really does come down to communication so much in threat mitigation, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally agree. And I think I feel that I'm also responsible for not being able to communicate things clearly, because sometimes we have this assumption that we all understand the same things, right? So if I show you something, I'm sure you will understand it and understand it right away. I don't take the time to understand your situation, right? I don't understand what ticks you or does not tick you. So yes, it boils down to communication at the end of the day, and I think that's an area where there's a lot of opportunities as well for all of us.
Yes, great. Thank you, Adli. Okay, so we are very privileged to have one more speaker on site in Taiwan. I would be very honored to introduce to you Professor Yi-Chun Hu. Professor, he's an associate professor at the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. Professor, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm actually glad that Adli spoke before me, because I will be speaking about DDoS, and otherwise I would be in a talk full of honey nuts and being the only one talking a little bit about infrastructure. So I am a faculty at the University of Illinois, and I've been working on DDoS defense since before 2007. This paper, Portcullis, was published at SIGCOMM in 2007, and it tries to protect connection setup across multiple congested links using some global proof of work and a trusted puzzle seed. In the years that have come between 2007 and now, we are almost to the point where such a thing could potentially be implemented. Now we have potentially globally trustable routes through NIST security beacons, and we have a lot of familiarity with proof of work due to the crypto space. But anyways, I have been working more recently on some approaches that are hopefully more deployable than something that has made no traction for 14 years. And so first, I want to start out with an observation of what has been the academic approach to DDoS defense as opposed to the commercial approach. So we've seen a lot of cloud outsourcing, DDoS protection as a service types of vendors in recent years. And the idea is to park a server out in the cloud, direct requests to that server through DNS, and then allow that service to filter requests that look like they are attack traffic. Now, this has some issues. In particular, there is a bypass problem that an attacker might know the victim's IP address and might be able to access it directly. And, well, here, let me just move on to the next slide. Whoops. Sorry, could I get the next slide, please? My remote appears to not work. All right, so we have cloud approaches that have been deployed readily, and they're deployable and they're scalable. But unfortunately, they're not destination driven. What counts as a DDoS attack versus not? Which flows should be given priority? Those are all decided by the cloud service provider. Also, there's this bypass vulnerability where the attackers can access the nodes directly and bypass the cloud entirely. There's also the capability approaches that we've seen proposed in academia that requires permission for all traffic. And this gives the destination a little bit more control over the traffic that's coming. But these are quite difficult to deploy because they require extensive in-network deployment, in particular at the bottleneck link. And they're also not truly destination-driven in the sense that a lot of times a connection setup is protected in some network-specific way and not in some destination-specific way. Next slide, please. So what we've done is we've created Middle Police, which is deployable and scalable, allows for completely destination-driven policies, and has effective mechanisms for filtering bypass traffic. So here's the architecture for Middle Police. We have a set of cloud middle boxes, and these can be set in various locations, so you can have geographical distribution. And the middle boxes perform the policing on traffic in accordance with a destination-defined policy. For example, if you're a bank under DDoS attack, you might first prefer to give priority to your customers that have some kind of status, or if you're a cellular provider, maybe you'll give priority to your own customers before you start servicing new customers. So these policies can be decided on a per destination basis. Also, we address bypass by creating a simple packet filter that can be installed using an access control list somewhere near the bottleneck link. And this allows us to effectively discard the traffic that is trying to bypass the middle box. So we have, we're combining a flexible, well-provisioned cloud with an immediately deployable packet filter mechanism. And we found that this works quite well. So the graph on the top left shows that our increase in latency is relatively low. Graph in the top right shows that we're doing quite well to filter attempts to bypass. And the bottom two graphs show that we're able to meet our fairness goals fairly accurately, even under attack. All right, so thinking about another approach to DDoS is to actually provide secure quality of service. So quality of service is something that has been studied for decades. And the idea is that we would like to be able to say, I can get a certain volume of traffic from a specific source to a specific destination. But in order to do that, you need to make sure that every packet has is able to either tie itself to a flow at the point of each router, so each router will enforce the quality of service mechanism, or we need some way of having accountability so that if a user sends more than their contracted amount of quality of service traffic, somehow they can be penalized for that. So some of you may have taken a MRT here, and the Type A MRT is an example of enforcement. They make sure that you paid your fare by having these ticket gates. And in order to get through the gates and get on the train or get out of the station, you need to pay. And that represents enforcement. Now, if you go to Switzerland and ride the train system in Switzerland, you will find that no one is forcing you to buy a ticket before you get on the train. But they do have people come around and check tickets from time to time. And if you are caught without a ticket, then you will be fined. And this is an example of accountability. But for accountability, what we need is some way of having authentication and replay prevention. Authentication because I need to make sure I'm punishing the right entity, and replay prevention because quality service is about counting packets, and I need to make sure that those packets were not somehow replicated inside the network. So I did this work in the context of Scion, which is a path-based network architecture. A lot of the concepts will work in other next-generation architectures as well. But the idea of Scion is it's path-based. So the source will choose a path to the destination, and those paths are subject to certain constraints. So just like your paths on the internet today are constrained by commercial considerations, the paths in Scion can likewise be constrained by commercial considerations. The combination of links within this path cannot be made arbitrarily. They have to be made in a way that satisfies the policies of the intermediate ASs. So each packet contains its path, and routers look at the path and forward it accordingly. This makes for simple routers and stateless operation. Now, if we want to be able to authenticate, if we want to be able to provide accountability to each packet, we need to be able to process these packets quickly. We see current high-speed internet links at 400 gigabits, and if you have 64-byte packets, that means you have to handle one packet every 1.3 nanoseconds. If you want to do this with asymmetric cryptography, things will not go very well. You can have a high-speed implementation of an asymmetric signature, and it will take about 100 microseconds per signature, which is far, far longer than the 1.3 nanoseconds at which you are receiving inbound packets. Now, the good news is that symmetric cryptography has come down in cost significantly, and if you use the AES-NI, the AES-specific hardware accelerated instruction set, you can do an AES operation in 30 cycles, which is about 10 nanoseconds. This is actually significantly faster than doing a single memory lookup in DRAM, which costs 70 nanoseconds. So if we do symmetric cryptography, then we can do high-speed processing, and we can process multiple packets in parallel, so we don't have a deadline of 1.3 nanoseconds per packet. So one of the mechanisms we designed is called DR key. The idea is that your AS will have a single secret value, and you use this value to generate a secret for every other AS using a pseudo-random function. So if you have some autonomous system X and it has a secret S, then what it'll do is it'll take that secret and use it as a key for a pseudo-random function on the AS identifier of ASY. And it will then create a key for X to Y. And this pseudo-random function computation can be done in 30 cycles, 7 times faster than a DRAM lookup. Also, all of the entities within this AS can share the single secret value, allowing the authentication to be not to a single router, but to every router along a path. And then, of course, you'll need the ASs to exchange keys because the secret value will not be provided to everybody. So what will happen is that there will be a key server, and each AS can approach every other AS and request a key from them. Because the number of ASs is relatively small, the number of keys that each AS needs to maintain is also relatively small. Also, this gives us AS to AS authentication, and the way we get to entity to AS authentication is that we use this AS to AS key to derive an entity to AS key. And this gives us the ability to check every packet. So this is our EPIC architecture. We can have per packet source authentication and that can happen at every router and at the destination. This path information that we provide, called hop fields, can be unique per packet, and the path can be validated by the destination. We assume a level of global loose time synchronization, easily achievable through GPS, quite readily also achievable through NTP. And we're able to prevent both packet modification and packet replay. So this gives us the authenticity that we need in order to have accountability for secure quality of service. In Epic, the routing information is carried in the packet. And in Scion, there is just an authenticator that shows that this path is put together in some way that is compliant with all of the policy. And that is given by this KH here. In Epic, all we do is we take this KH and we use it to compute the message authentication code that is specific to this packet. So we have a timestamp in there for long-term replay prevention. And then we also have information about the packet that's tied to this authenticator. Also, we can have source authentication using the DR keys mechanism we described earlier. So we take this key that is AS to entity, and we use that to authenticate the timestamp and the packet. And the total packet processing here is going to require 5 AES operations, 2 to derive the key, 1 to derive the old authenticator, and then 1 to derive the hop field authentication, and 1 to derive the source authentication. It turns out that 2 of these can be done in parallel, so the total latency is about 30 nanoseconds, which is still about twice as fast as a DRAM lookup. Now, this timestamp gives us long-term replay prevention. You can't replay, let's say, 100 milliseconds in the future, but you could replay immediately. And the way we prevent short-term replays is that we use a Bloom filter. And we have a construction for a Bloom filter that operates very quickly with very low false negative rate that we presented in 2017. Basically, with this mechanism, we can authenticate packets in such a way that we can provide accountability for quality of service systems. So this is part of Scion broadly, which includes security routing mechanisms, some path control mechanisms for preventing flooding, some reservations, which is eventually what we want to get out of this secure quality of service. We have reservation mechanisms in priority classes, and also packet authentication. Now, this is an internet forum, and so I would be remiss to not mention that a lot of these mechanisms can be overlaid or underlaid on the internet. So there is Scion Lab, which is an overlay on the internet that is running Scion today. It doesn't yet, I don't think they're operating Epic yet, but they are operating DR keys to my knowledge. And then also there are some Scion and IP parallel over the same piece of fiber being done by Anapaya networks. And so it's possible to either run Scion on top of IP or run Scion alongside IP. And that's all I have, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Hu. For those who aren't familiar with it, I strongly urge you to take a look at Scion Lab. It's very easy to look up at scionlab.org. They have some really interesting stuff, and they can offer it to you. Professor Hu, I had a question for you, if it was okay. You've been teaching for 16 years at the University of Illinois. And most interestingly to me, you've been working in the DDoS ecosystem for 14 years. And in 2007 and 2008 and 2009, I bet there weren't more than a handful of students and professors and colleagues you had who really even understood what you were doing. But now it's 2021. And when I talk to students, I'm amazed at the breadth of knowledge of internet that they have, the breadth of knowledge of IP, of DDoS, of DNS, of all these wonderful things that everyone here, we take for granted because this is what we do. And some of us are getting a little bit old, and we've done it for many decades. I wonder if you could talk just a little bit about some of the things you've seen change in the 16 years you've been teaching about students, young people, and their understanding of DDoS and security and mitigations.
Yeah, so DDoS has been actually around for a long time, right? So the first DDoS attack was in 1999. And I actually had this on my slide set before I was cutting it down to 15 minutes. But more recently, of course, it's become more prevalent, and the issue is money, as Adli mentioned. So there has been more awareness. And I actually think that a lot of our students, especially our graduate students, are coming more and more prepared. They've seen more research. The internet is more entrenched in their lives. You know, our students who are coming in now are, I think they say, digital natives. They have lived in the internet for much of their conscious lives, and so a lot of things are more intuitive to them than those of us who came to the internet later in life.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've reached the top of the hour, so it is time to say goodbye. I would like to very much thank our panelists. Professor Hu, thank you. Mr. Hikohiro Lin, thank you very much. Dr. Kunio Miyamoto, thank you. And Adli Wahid, it's nice to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I hope it was very good for you. Have a wonderful rest of the forum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huberman, for moderating the session. And also thank you to all panelists for this very informative session.